Hello again out there. Another great episode of Pardon My News, hosted by Tim Loss and Kevin Bennett. Kevin, how has your week been?
Oh, it's been pretty darn good. It's been pretty darn good. Been hanging out, being groovy, working, taking care of business.
That's
What's
the way
that?
to be.
What's that song by CCR? Doesn't matter. Rolling on a River. There's a lyric in there that would have been really appropriate right just then, but I missed it. But imagine it. You'll be with me. Anyway, it's been a good week.
Just imagine John Fogerty's voice, and
There
that's
we
just
go.
good. That's just good information to have,
Yeah, that's the one.
right? Uh, Pretty good week here too. A lot of big stuff. I'll save the fucking hot dog and grandstanding to the end and tell you all about that good stuff. What's going on, Tim Lost Comedy Land and all that. But we just recently came back from one of our final checkups from my daughter. She's going to be here a little bit earlier than expected. She's going to be a February baby, so we're pretty excited about that. So that's probably the best news out of whatever we're going to say tonight in my world. I think that's really cool. But
That's amazing. You got it's that close. So
yeah,
while we're talking here, if your little lady comes in here and says we got to go to the hospital, I won't be offended.
yeah, we'll just leave it on live. You'll just see the curtains. It's like this is
Oh,
the best show ever. But
yeah,
we
man, it's still news.
we're already set up. We're actually did it right. I guess that's the benefits of having a baby a little bit more seasoned. The way I'll say it better than the doctors. The doctors keeps calling us geriatrics, and I just think that's an offensive term to tell a pregnant lady. But whatever.
Man, it's painful. I mean, I don't feel like I'm old, but we're in the middle of 30. That's in the middle of the statistics. I don't like knowing that information.
Well, I take pride in knowing that marketing people don't give a fuck about us anymore. We're beyond that age group where they don't even care about our money. They know our kids are get it or our nephews who are going to get most of our expendable or whatever we're spending at that time. So we're a lost cause in marketing, which is great because I'm tired of seeing the fucking ads. So
Well, lucky you, I still get the calls from the telemarketers. I've got a novel way of dealing with one. I got one. He said, "Hello, we're selling X, Y, and Z." I said, "Patel, I'm like 3 cubicles down from you. You've dialed the wrong number." And he like paused for a minute. He's like, "What the? Oh!" And then he just hung up on me. Anyway, that's been my new tactic. I act like I'm also in the call center.
no, I've done this a little different. We used to get calls during tax time about
Oh,
cruises and all that stuff. And one guy called me up. He's like, "I got a great deal for you." It's like, what's crazy is I got an even better deal for you. And I tried to flip him. Like,
oh, somebody. I used to work at a call center. I used to work on for T-Mobile, and some genius. And I wish they must have made a video of it that didn't go viral. But what they did is they got the AT&T guy on the line, and then they conference called in the Verizon. That's who I work. No, I was T-Mobile. The conference, and they tried to get us to. And what it is they've got us both on scripts, and we can't hang up except through extreme rudeness. So we had to like try and sell each other. And meanwhile, you can hear the teenagers laughing. It's a brilliant gag. It was I didn't mind being pranked like that. That was a good one. I got paid for that.
good. It's good. I sold insurance, so I know what you're talking about, the script. Because I
Mm,
remember I would use my own words. That's not allowed. That's
right.
not freelancing. You better stick to a lot of money went into where they put they and are in this paragraph, and you can't just skip them. You gotta. Oh, it was 2 or 3 meetings before I completely lost all heart in that job. But
Oh,
yeah,
that stuff is not fun. It's bad for the caller. It's bad for the person who picks up the phone. The managers know they're full of it, so they all do cocaine in the back rooms. When I was getting trained at T-Mobile, this guy, like our trainer got busted for meth. Like he walks in one day with like a stack of cash. He's like, "Oh, they said I would steal this money. I need to steal money. Look, I got all kinds of money. You guys know I got the money. I got the money. I'm good." And then like he got escorted out by a couple of cops. That was like before we even started working. What it was is this call center used to hire people out of the halfway house. And that's a good way to segue into the news, because what they want to do to us is make us so stuck in the system that they farm us around between jails and halfway houses and call centers like sheep. They don't want anybody to have that upward mobility. And you see it more in states where they're progressive policies have hit. This was in Colorado. So
Oh
boom,
no.
brought us full circle.
Yeah, no, that's great because we should start talking about some kind of the current affairs that are happening. We'll start with something easy, palatable. At this time, when I was reading this article, Trump has not been back on Facebook, but that could be changed anytime. He is currently in review. Apparently, right after January 6th, they blocked him off the platform for 2 years. And that was before Truth Mobile came out. You could read some of the stuff up there as well, but we're skimming, obviously. I guess the bigger question is it okay for social media platforms to do this? One, let's just start that open. That ban people for basically free speech because he did say whatever he said. He had legally, even though I think maybe differently, he hasn't been charged for anything. So it is free speech. It wasn't slander or anything like that. So do you think it was okay for them to do what they did?
Not at all. I was in DC January 6th, 2021. And I was there at his speech. And I tell you what, there was no incitement to violence there. I left halfway through his speech because I had to pee, and they didn't. It was like either they didn't plan for that many people to be there, or they deliberately underserved the people that showed up. Because literally, there was between 6 and a dozen porta potties, maybe even less than that. I want to be accurate, for over 1 million people. Like
So
it
it's like Woodstock 99
Yeah,
for
I
the
was
Trump.
saying that on my YouTube. It was like a conservative Woodstock. It was totally unplanned for. It was cold. This is January. It's threatening to snow all day. It's cloudy out. Everybody's got to pee. There's nowhere to go. So I figured they just didn't plan it right. So I left early before his speech because I thought because they said we were going to march to the Capitol to peacefully, legally make our protests known about this election. So I left early and I figured I'll get there ahead of everybody. It's a mile from where he spoke. It's almost exactly a mile from where he spoke to the back of the Capitol, and he had everything set up at the front. But I get there, I leave in the middle of his speech, and it's already overrun, which means whoever got there before me, they had to leave before I did. And I left in the middle of his speech, and it was an hour walk.
Oh,
So
so from just for my clarification, because I see the news timeline that even like the news documentary I watched about it has it the speech and then considerably maybe hours later the Capitol getting run over.
no, it had to have happened almost while he was still speaking.
Okay.
Because it's an hour from the ellipse to the Capitol building in terms of it's a mile. I mean, you can generally walk that in 15 minutes. We're talking a crowd, shoulder to shoulder. Took me an hour to get there, and I left before his speech was over. And the people when I got there, the French barricades had been knocked over, and it looked like more disorganization because they didn't have the porta potties. That's why I left. It looked just like, oh, there was way too many people, and they didn't plan for it because they were hoping nobody'd show. That's what I thought. And I got there. It was really disorganized. I really had to pee. There was a porta potty there that had a line over 100 people, and it was near the back of the Capitol. And there was a bunch of scaffolding set up and people overrun it. And there was a lot of shouting, but it looked like I thought there was like maybe some show or some speaker back there, and they were taking them in and out for tours, is what I thought.
Oh, okay.
I did hear one or two flashbangs, and everybody around me, myself included, I didn't know it was a flashbang until afterwards. I thought it was a firework. We all thought it was people. There were old ladies there. I mean, there was a lady pushing a
Yeah,
dog.
that does make sense. That makes sense.
And we thought it was a firework. Didn't see anything. I had to pee. It was cold. I said, all right, you know what? I marched here. I'm going to head out. Now, the cell phones have been down all this time because there's so many people. I get on the subway at
Oh, they don't ever sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's fascinating to me that they don't talk about that because
yeah.
that basically journalism's dead. The man on
Oh, yeah.
the who is there seeing it is the new journalism.
Yeah, and that's
And you basically silenced all of you due to not being able to accurately report on the minute what's happening.
100%. So yeah, I couldn't. I took some videos and I recorded them because the network was down. I don't know if it was just too many people or if that was the excuse for shutting it down. But either way, I couldn't access it. So I didn't have access to the internet until I got to the station where I finally was able to go to the bathroom, and there was still a huge line because it was just overrun. And I get on the train, the subway, whatever, because I took a hotel. I figured Antifa was going to come mess up our cars. I didn't want to park nearby. So I got a hotel about 3 miles away. And while I'm on the subway, I hear there was violence at the Capitol. I'm sitting here like, it was disorganized. So probably the Ashley Babbitt thing happened while I was walking there. So whatever happened with that Capitol had to happen either the second Trump was finished and I was still a half hour away, or before he even finished speaking. And he got on late too. So we're talking between 11 and 1 o'clock when most of this went down.
Right.
So I did some in-depth videos on it, and weirdly, nobody's come after me. So I don't know what I'm doing right or wrong, or if I got the Lord's protection or what, but I'll keep telling my story. So anyway, back to the Facebook, taking him off of Facebook. I was there. He didn't incite anybody to violence. I looked at the stuff they said was incitement to violence. The whole thing was a false flag perpetuated for political anti-brownie points. They were taking brownie points away from the Trump side of the fence. So I think it was all just it's all just a farce.
I think mine's complicated, but well, it's maybe a cop out. If he did something ad revenue wise, I can see them doing it because that's the new thing. Like, oh, well, you say this and our sponsors, and that's what bring blah 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 blah. But also, if they're, I guess the bigger question, and that's what we're fighting today, is can you use social media and the deplatforming as a weapon in one way or another? Like you're saying, like it's all because he was given a different outlook, what he saw, what his, because what you just said, when he was talking, he saw none of that. He was a mile away. He just saw a bunch of people peacefully protesting and in support of him. So when he said stuff on Facebook, it just seems like it seems maybe we're giving him like too much power, but I don't know how to do it in a free market to limit it. That's where it's kind of the
The,
gray area.
the
I
interesting
like
conversation.
what Trump did though. It's like you ban me, I'll make my own platform. I
Well,
just
there's an interesting complication here because the argument that's given to justify this is that a private company can do what it wants with its own platform. And that's a somewhat fair argument. But what the Twitter files have revealed in the last 2 months, and what we already know if we've been paying attention with Facebook, YouTube, Google, and all these big platforms, is that the government was pulling the strings for Twitter. The FBI was paying them millions of dollars to do what they told them to do. And I think it would be naive to assume that Facebook is not doing the same thing, or that YouTube and Google aren't doing the same thing, especially when there's very good evidence YouTube, Google, and Facebook have been puppeteered by the CIA or whatever initial agency you want to call it all along. There's Facebook developed right after a certain DARPA surveillance project crumbled, and then MySpace imploded, and Facebook took the spot of that almost. There's something fishy there. YouTube, around 2016, YouTube and Facebook started censoring content. 2020 is when they finally gave Trump the boot. But from about 2016 on, it's been a manipulation lever more than it's been an open social media platform for more than just Facebook. So the whole thing's fishy to me. Now they're calling Facebook Meta, and if you look at the metaverse, it looks like video game graphics that are worse than when the GameCube first launched or the Wii, all the way back. So I wonder very much if this whole Meta thing and Facebook. I wonder if Mark Zuckerberg, like FTX or whatever it was, he was a laundering conduit. And the whole thing's them dumping their money and he's laundering it. I really wonder that because it's so ham-fisted and it's so synthetic. So yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that there's probably government involvement in this, I mean, that changes the whole equation.
what I find fascinating about the metaverse is all I hear is it doesn't work and everyone hates it and it must be losing tons of money. And then you do research and it's like we're going to talk about Avatar. No, it's making billions. What are you
Is
talking about? Look over here. That's what I've seen many people that say, even though it's lost this, it's going to make up this and this. And then you hear comedy clubs in the metaverse that are trying to are becoming more I don't think it works in a medium, but I'm an older dude. I think comedy's more of a live, interactive stage type thing than,
I've seen that where
uh,
they have like a digital comedy room.
yeah, you're not even yourself. You're just
Yeah,
some avatar
and they'll like
walking
give you
around.
money. It was weird.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know. Maybe it is making money, but I've heard that it hasn't made any money yet. Potentially, I haven't seen potential, but I haven't seen anything that indicates it's actually made more money than they've invested in it.
well, see that the only thing I've seen is like a few articles saying how it's going to, like
Uh,
they're saying potential, but the people that are actually using it and all that hate it. All you type in right now, hate it, and it's fast. What I think is fascinating about social media, and I think it works on both sides. I don't think we've learned how to properly operate and be on social media. I think we take it for granted, but I can literally remember a time before Facebook, before all this, and I think
we'd have to go knock on.
especially for us, nothing for us older people. I don't know about you. You younger people, I talk that because of my son. It's real. This internet's so real to you. And we were growing up that this was basically the bathroom wall, a
Yeah,
giant shit posting place
yeah.
where you're not real and you can download Metallica off Napster because we
I
didn't give
still
a
think
fuck.
cyberbullying is kind of bullshit. Pardon my French, but I still think cyberbullying is kind of bullshit. Oh, you read some words on the digital platform that hurt your feelings. Oh, it's too bad you can't turn it off and do something else. It's just too bad. It's just too bad.
To
It's,
block them. Well, that's another thing. If you're on social, you do control what you're seeing. Like I deal. I got an abrasive ass personality. I rub people the wrong way. I get people trolls all the time, and sometimes they hit me the wrong way, and I know I shouldn't respond, but I'm bored on a Saturday. Let's kill a few hours, and I know it's wrong, but like then I block them if it gets too crazy and all that, and I don't leave too much personal stuff out there. I think that's what we need to start teaching is etiquette on here and social, like really what's
it
going
worked.
on.
Up until about 2016, that's how everything was. That was like a pre-gen internet era because I wouldn't block as a general rule unless I had to. Is how I ran with it. But nobody got put in Facebook jail. Nobody. And some wild stuff was said. Nobody did that. And then all of a sudden we need Facebook. We never needed it. It's always been a political tool. And here's the interesting thing. You said that there's perspective articles, etc., that talk about Meta making money. And I think there is a pathway to that. It requires the sort of funding that can only be supplied by government interests. There's a guy named Yuval Harari out of Noah Yuval Harari out of Israel, and he's a futurist transhumanist. And he talks about how we're going to be so plugged into digital virtual reality that we'll have to learn to walk again. The guy's 45, 46. So he's only about a decade above us in terms of age. And he's working on this at the A-list levels of things. And I think he's a corrupt dude. I don't think he's a good guy. I really don't. But he seems to believe it's going to happen, and he's at the nodes of power. So if there is this Agenda 2030 conspiratorial thing going on, I can very much see governments getting behind things like the metaverse and sort of forcing you into them. I mean, with this whole decentralization, the Zoom, the StreamYard we're on now, owing to the fallout from 2020, all of that stuff is marching us toward decentralized productivity, and that's going to phase out certain jobs, and it's going to make us more dependent on government programs. So in that sense, it could be that that's what Zuckerberg's up to, is it's the next building block in a total, as Alex Jones would say, a panopticonic technocracy.
Well, you're not.
It's just
You're
observing. Yeah.
you're actually not that wrong. The guy, I watched a YouTube video, very smart guy. I think his name Joe Scott. I'll find the video and I'll put in the links below later on. But he basically said there's a guy who predicted Google, the internet in the late 90s. They call him the oracle of the stock market and that. And they asked him to predict what's going to happen, in the next till 2050 to 2100. And what he said was exactly what you said. To the point, artificial organs to the point now we can upload minds onto hard drives, and it gets real crazy and
And by the way,
sci-fi.
that mines onto hard drives thing, just anybody watching this, I don't know when they're going to take this down because I'm what I'm about to say, but that's never going to work. What that is a murder con. And that's the same thing as the assisted suicide in Canada. They're both murder cons for the sake of the government. So medically assisted induced death Made is what they're calling it in Canada. That's some 1984 Soylent Green dystopic shenanigans. And the idea that you can upload your consciousness to a computer is the same thing. Nobody knows what consciousness is. You can talk a metaphysical explanation if you want, but if we're going to go strictly by the book, cut out anything supernatural, there is no explanation for self-awareness, consciousness. You can feel your own skin, you can feel your own head, you're looking out from those eyes and you feel different than how other people see. There's no explanation for your self-awareness at
Well,
all.
that's 100% true, and, what I tell my son all the time is, "Your generation, you're living through society determining what gender is. Your sister, m my daughter is gonna be raised in an age of what they're gonna decide what human is." I don't know if that's for de-evolving and progression or all that, that's for I think it's just very wild how that is all working. And when you said stuff like that, it struck a nerve because I tell my son, like, you're literally living through history so much right now. Like, it's crazy how much shit goes on a Tuesday that's going to be impactful for decades going on. We don't
Oh
even
yeah.
know it.
Oh yeah, there's stuff. It's like if when we were kids, we always wondered what it'd be like to be in the '60s. Well, we're in a more historical time now, strangely enough, and that's hard to believe. It's hard to wrap your mind around. But yeah, the transhumanist movement does seek to combine technology and biology, and uh, basically play God from the molecular level. I mean, that's where it's headed. And what's scary about it is I don't think we can. Um, now, I don't believe in deep time evolution. I don't. But I understand it well enough to speak neutrally on it. I'm just, I'm not playing any games, not messing around with you here. So I don't believe in that. But assuming that it's the legitimate way that humanity has progressed over 14.6 billion years in total, 4.6 billion back to the beginning Earth, there's a primordial soup. Changes over time result in mutations that develop into new classes of organism until we reach the present day. That's the basic theory of it. There's no way to control that. And that's what they're doing. They believe that they can control human evolution. The idea of socialism is that if you can create the perfect environment, you can create the perfect man. That's the basic fundamental thesis, if you will, of the socialist global worldwide revolution of the proletariat. And you all know Harari. I don't know if I'm mixing up the order of his names, but he believes that he can also control human evolution. And the technologists in Silicon Valley believe that. And that's what a lot of this Facebook social media stuff's about. They're constructing a neural network wherein the things you and I are saying right now will be included in that network forever as data points computers will use to ape intelligence, artificial intelligence. It's a global worldwide neural network. IoT's exponentially increasing how that works. Quantum computing will make it so that that neural network can be processed in real time, understood, and applied. So that's where we're all
I
headed.
think some of the misconceptions, just from where, and I don't mean to speak
You
on
good?
my behalf. Why I have to, me as a leftist, I have to make the disclaimer. I'm always afraid of my feelings and when other people knowing it. I think the trans movement is more just people. Here's my look on it. I think more people just trying to be happy and people exploiting that happiness to press their own agenda, one
I
way
mean
or
more than just
another.
transsexual. I'm talking transhuman. It's a step beyond that.
Oh, so okay, that's just like biomechanic? I'm sorry,
Well, no. So the transsexual movement is part of the transhumanist movement. It's a step on the same staircase, but there's like more steps. Basically, eventually, did you seen Wally? They had us
yeah.
going around in those floaty pods. You've seen the Matrix. You've seen Blade, that big old fat vampire in the basement, plugged into the network that never moved anywhere. Basically, if we could be controlled like that as data points in a neural network that were controlled completely by the government, producing life that was totally controlled by them. That's what they'd like.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay,
that's what I'm talking
sorry.
about. You're good.
Pardon me on that. Thank you for clarifying that. Pardon my GED was showing there for a moment, so I had to say, no, I agree with that. And no, I don't think there's, well, what you're ultimately saying is government trying to control us. And I had something right on my tip of my tongue, but no,
Well,
maybe that's already what they're starting.
what
Maybe that's all.
that's the thing with all these media companies is they want to create. They have to put together the infrastructure to do that sort of thing, and the type of infrastructure they're putting together is to direct human evolution, which is what they think. Now, whether or not you agree with evolution or I agree with it, I don't. You might, but that's what they're trying to do. I think the theory of evolution doesn't allow for manipulation deliberately. I think that's the province of sci-fi, but that's the pseudoscientific justification being used for these ideological maneuvers.
I just, why does life have to turn into a Wachowski's film? Like, why does
Right.
it have to turn in
And you
literally?
saw how it ended up for Andy and Larry.
Oh my lord, Keanu Reeves shouldn't be in every saving life prophecy movie. Give the guy a break. No, you watched it in '95. We all thought it was ridiculous, and then the metaphors more and more are coming true, and I tell it is true. Um, I don't know what else more to say about that. That's
Well,
exactly that.
it is a long rabbit trail if you get down into it. But I was watching a thing the other day about Asimov's Foundation trilogy, and what the Asimov Foundation trilogy puts forth as a thesis is the idea of the globalist state to transcend a planet and become a galaxy of planets, if you will. You know, that a lot of these futurists, and I love sci-fi. I've read a lot of it, but a lot of it's total nonsense. But a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of what these guys want to do is they want to totally control an entire planet, so you can have a federation of planets, like the Earth planets, like Ohio, and Mars would be like Wyoming or something. So what the Asimov Foundation trilogy points out is that, okay, you can't predict the future in specific, but in terms of broad sociological trends, you can predict and even direct the future. So what we're seeing with social media, with neural networks, with all this stuff, we are being given breadcrumbs, if you will, by globalists trying to pull us into a consolidated ideological momentum, forward momentum. So they want us all on the same page to a single globalist ideal with one governing body. Social media is being used to do that scientifically. We're being manipulated like Pavlov dogs. I think we talked about this in the other one.
Well,
And that,
you're saying it's an illusion. Like they're feeding us an illusion
oh,
that
yeah,
free will and choice on social media is turned into an algorithm that I can't pronounce, but basically isn't real. It's already set up and predetermined. That's why you're getting these things set to you.
yeah.
Like, oh, I heard about these socks. Of course, you heard about these socks. Your phone's already heard about it, set it, it saw your search bar, saw your friend's search bar, saw you walk by the Dick's Sporting Goods that one time with the cell phone in the pocket. And it takes all that and says, hey, you probably like these socks from Dick's Sporting Goods. You're like, ah, yeah, how'd this phone know?
And
And
that's why it's important, I think, for us to have conversations like this, even if nobody hears us. The algorithms do, and what
yeah,
we do will influence how that algorithm tries to manipulate you. Because that's the secret here. All this stuff is developed by fallible human beings, which means it's got vulnerabilities in the basic humanity on which it is built. And those of us who are willing to have conversations and not shy away from it will inform that, and it will have a collateral effect. So, I don't like the game we're stuck in. But Hyland said this, and he was a futurist, and he had his own problems. But he said, "Sure, the game's rigged. It's the only game in town." So, okay, this is what we got to deal with. Let's play ball.
they've monetized free will and choice and turned the people who didn't know that into adverts. I always go back into um, kind of like what was it, Cash Wore Black, because there was so much in there. And there was the old rumor why Johnny Cash just started wearing black all the time. There's so much pain in the world, and he didn't. And then later on, to kind of find out he just didn't want to be marketed. Black wasn't like you couldn't do anything. Like you
I
couldn't
didn't
put
know
another
that.
label on it and
Wow.
stuff like that. And that's what it later came on was that's why people started doing that is because they didn't want to be a symbol or use stuff like and. He didn't want us to be walking billboards shilling us. We wanted to be humans. And now I remember feeling bad buying my first Dr. Pepper t shirt when I was a teenager at Walmart. I was like, I'm part of the problem. It's funny, right? I seriously thought going, who's going to wear a fucking t shirt with a soda on it? Like, soda's like liquid poison. This is stupid. Look now, dude. People are getting out and do tattoos. There's Facebook groups right now having a live stream testing the new 87th Mountain Dew flavor. It's just nuts.
And the algorithm's rewarding them and
Yeah.
giving more viewers than they deserve. I got a perfect example on my YouTube. Yesterday, I took a slow-mo video, 20 seconds, of a tape measure coming together, and then it jumps, right? Kind of interesting in slow-mo, not a big deal. Last weekend, I took a video of deer eating out of my hand because they're so close here, they'll just eat apple chips. You can find it on my YouTube. And the one with the tape measure's got almost the same amount of views. See, that's not natural. More people are going to want to see the deer than the tape measure, and that's not political either. But the reason that tape measure is getting that algorithmic boost, in my opinion, my expectation is it's stupid and sensorially provocative. It's sensuous in a way. Most of those slow-mo things have a sensuous nature to them, and they want us to be sensory, not intellectual.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
Yeah.
your 20-second clip gives them everything. A conclusion, a finely packaged thing, exciting finale. That's the TikTok gold right there, the reels. And I am ashamed of it. I don't like it, but I'll sit here and be like, what's this one video? Oh,
Yeah.
this guy smuggled some cocaine into prison. It's only a minute. And then 3 hours later, I'm like, what have you fucking done with my life, YouTube? I want it back.
Remember when they used to say some people are internet addicted? They spend as many as 3 hours on the internet every day. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember hearing, some people come home and watch TV until like they go to bed. Look at those. Won't you get a life? And now people, just because I said that, are sitting there typing how they already have a life, and I should be judging people. I don't know, dude. I think sometimes, like, I've always thought this whole thing was. Uh, it's because I was a little older and raised in a different time. I didn't raise with a computer or anything. When I did, it's basically prank calling in chat rooms while I downloaded illegal music,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like it wasn't as I was listening to someone else talk. It was just basically chat rooms, a lot
Yeah.
of reading. If you
Oh,
wanted
you
to
were
get
ASL, hoping it was a hot girl, and it was probably some fat, hairy dude. When we were teenagers, we didn't know. We were innocent. We weren't.
right.
Kids
Well,
showed
no,
our innocence.
we knew my cousin was a little older, and I never got this. He's a little older. He always pretended to be a girl and talked to the other ones, and then but I'm a dude. I got you, and we'd all laugh. But in the back of my head, I was like, "Who's this joke really on? This seems a little weird."
Hold
Like,
on a second. It's like one of those Family Guy type things. Like, yeah. And then what we'll do is I'll take my pants down while he's asleep, and I'll stick myself in his mouth. And it's like, wait a second here. Hold on a second. What kind of joke is this? That was going on back in the. There's a different kind of humor. It's not a
yeah,
good, or it's just a different generational thing. I think what we're seeing now with this internet, we're seeing ideological subversion writ large at the government corporate level. And the idea is to suck us more into these screens. We're already, you and I, somewhat cyborgs because part of our brain is in this stupid thing that you can't ever get rid of.
well,
I mean, you can't even go to the bathroom without it.
I've just. It's the religion for the atheists. It just got that. Just a hit for people like myself who don't find we science or stuff. You can throw your whole life away on this social media crap and care
Oh,
what
yeah.
the person's doing next, and never deplug. I honestly, and what's crazy is it is a religion because if I say something bad, I might hurt the Facebook ad revenue. And if you hurt the Facebook ad revenue, you shall pay with 28 days. Or if you like a lot of my business comes through Facebook, they'll just ruin my business. They'll just
Yeah.
make it where I can't message people, cut my whole platform 10 years down the work because I said maybe a bad 4-letter word that shouldn't be there. And we can't do that. I just thought it was funny, even when I was discussing it here, I was like, even it just encompassing all. I was more like, well, it's okay if they get rid of Trump because of the ads. I was sympathetic if they need to make money. It's all bullshit. If it's
Oh, yeah.
free
Well,
speech, it should be free speech.
imagine if AT&T or even StreamYard cut us off because of what we're saying. I mean, that's what it's like, because Facebook, these things have become a utility every much as a phone line is. And that's by design for the financial interests behind them. And now they are acting as curators. It's like if you had a bad opinion so you don't get electricity to your house. I mean, we're plugged into this. So no, it's not okay for them to do that. I
We
mean,
can't say anything bad because they have our only pictures of Nana. And Nana passed away last year, and I don't remember the account name. I don't even use that email anymore. So if I fuck up, we lose Nana. Facebook has that power right now. That's the power of holding Nana in front of you.
I mean, they got Nana and it's bananas. Watch it. God help.
They we're going we're going to the next thing. I heard about a pipeline going down. This one I actually know a little bit about. Oh, Biden decided to shut down the Keystone Pipeline, uh, and literally casted thousands of jobs in that area. I think that's actually closer to your area. You actually might know people directly affected with
Now,
this. And no one's talking about it. And I think it needs to be talked about because even on a leftist point of view, I never wanted this pipeline. Never wanted it. Obama was in his first term was steadfast. I was actually a big supporter of that. Second term, he caved. He
yeah.
caved, and we had one. So I kind of got that was one thing I didn't like about Obama. I'm sure he's got a little bit more, but I always stuck with me was like, man, I fought for you 4 years on that for the environmental thing, and you're still going to do it anyways. So now that we get the jobs, we're hurting us, firing them, and we're doing this all just because pettiness. Because Trump kind of liked the pipeline, and if you're a Democrat, you can't like anything Trump likes, or that's fucking bad. And that's literally what it is. It was up and running. We spent all this money into it. We bought a fucking Buick that runs oil to help us out in the country, and we're not giving no rides anymore. We put a Biden put a fucking tarp on it and said, nope, you can't see it anymore because Trump drove it one time. And
Not only that though, part of it's definitely part of the MAGA thing. But the other thing is, in order to get us consolidated in these little bubbles, the 15-minute city concept, there has to be a collateral tax on the cost of travel. Travel has to be too expensive for the common man to do, except in special occasions like for holidays, and that's it. And that's kind of what they're doing to us right now. They say that this pipeline being shut down is for the environment, but poor people have to do more environmentally unsafe things to tread water when you take away basic infrastructure.
I'm sorry. I have to laugh. Yeah, it was for the environment. That's why we ran all those Native Americans off the fucking land to put the pipe there. Yeah. Yeah, that's why we didn't want to do it in the fucking first place. I'm sorry to get a little mad, but we
Well,
can't say,
remember,
oops, it's for the environment now after we just destroyed their whole land.
you've already, it's like, oh, okay, well, we made a mistake, so now we'll just leave this scar on the earth. It could have
Right.
at least been, okay, okay, we shouldn't have done it, but now at least we can help people not be so poor, and maybe that'll help them clean. No, you can't even use it. And then they had all these protests, remember? The protesters against the pipeline, and it was actually like worse than Woodstock, and the poor guys
Yes.
who were there were like, what?
This is oh, I love it. We came in and said, "Hey, you're fired, and your water's like Flint, Michigan. Thank you. You're welcome."
Yeah.
We
Hey,
knew this.
it. And then did you see Ellen DeGeneres the other day? We got California is getting water now, and there's like a river outside her Beverly Hills house, and she's like, Mother Nature is not happy. She's sitting here lecturing us on the environment. They take private jets to these events that they donate carbon offsets. King of the Hill had a great episode where this environmentally horrible dude gets to do whatever the hell he wants with his business, no matter how bad it is for the environment, as long as he pays them carbon offsets.
Season 13. I know that episode because he just buys all the carbon offsets to plant trees.
Yeah.
Well, Dale pockets the money too, and they don't plant any trees. They're
And that's
supposed
how
to have a festival in the forest, but they have no forest. So you know
yep.
what they do? They rent a forest and pollute that forest. Oh my god.
It's a
That's
great
so fucking real. Hey, Ellen, I'm sorry. I would have you would have a leg to stand on if every product that doesn't come out of California has to have a warning label saying it came from California. I'm sorry, you guys kind of did that all on your own. I don't know what else to say on that aspect. Like with everything else, and it's hard. It wasn't, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but California is still one of the leading Democratic ran states.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys. I love you how you took all that power. Hey, but that one time Terminator was our governor. That was pretty cool, right? You know.
Fine. I will terminate the environmental crisis in the future. I will invent a time machine and go to the future. I will terminate it there, but not now. You have to vote for me so I can make the time device.
If I did my research right, he was a Republican that didn't do too bad. It just
Well,
he fucked his nanny. He probably shouldn't have done that. That was bad.
you know how it is. There's rhinos, which I'd rather them just be a Democrat because then at least they're when so it'd be like somebody saying they're a Democrat and really being Republican, and you vote them in, and then they do everything opposite of what you want. Kind of how Obama did in his second term. That's how
Oh
I
yeah.
feel about Schwarzenegger. But this is something really interesting. So in the 30s, they invented a windmill that made electricity, and it was about 25 feet high. By today's standards, it costs you like $5,000 to install. And they've got them that were installed in the 30s that are still running today. And it's a small, like for a single family home windmill or a farm is what they were used for. They're in Iowa still running today. Why don't we have those? Why do we have to have these massive windmills that only last 10 years, break all the time, are more environmentally unsafe to produce than what they offset, and ultimately end up ruining ecosystems, ruining skylines, when we could have these little single house? See, they've got the solutions. It's not that we actually don't even have the technology. It's that the powers that be don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. So if there's an environmentally friendly technology that will make us less dependent on government and corporations, then that's going to be de-emphasized, and the people who made it might even be killed. Remember that guy who made an engine runs on water? Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, no, that my family's been yeah, exactly. What I'll say about the I want to push for more environmental things, but it's hard when it's clear. Like I could talk about windmills. They have wind farms up north in Illinois. Does any of that power go to any of us? No, it goes to Chicago because the rich motherfuckers want to say they got environmentally clean power, but they just don't want that big wind thing in their yard. And that's the shit that pisses me off.
Yeah.
It goes back to a very simple. Bill Maher said it too. It's a very famous thing. It's not even very famous. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Sun Chips at one time had a 100% recyclable package. It was for their peppercorn ranch. 100% made out of recyclable things. You know why they stopped making it? The plastic was a little loud and didn't feel like other chip bags and was a little too crinkly. And I had it, and I do agree. So they stopped making it because fuck the planet for 12 cents a profit. And that's the shit that pisses me off. Is like you got to go in all the way. You can't say you're this one thing and then that. You can't say, hey, I'm Al Gore, I'm pro America, but I'm going to sell my fucking TV company to Al Jazeera after, like, what the hell? Like, that's the shit that
They were
pisses me
named
off.
Al. I'm named Al.
Whatever. So that's the shit that gets me. Like, we want to say electric cars are the way to go, but we never say, where's electric come from? Fairy dust, don't you know? Or, hey, how about those nickel batteries? Where do they come from? Horrible atrocity mines where people you don't even know, probably named Todd, and that's not even their name. That's just what we call them. Todd. Todd number one, go in there and go harvest
Listen,
nickel
I would
for
rather work at the diamond mine.
it.
Not diamond. This nickel is no good. It's much more difficult.
Oh my lord. So that's the stuff I hate. Yeah, wind farms are great and have their things, but exactly if we could all just have we have the room, we could do our own little thing. We could promote guarding. We could promote self-sufficiency with people, but and that leads to the conspiracy or truth that the government's slowly making us on their tit so they can control us.
Oh,
I
no,
never understood with the pandemic growing, not one person other than I'm not name dropping, but the Mormons were preaching self sufficiency, planting stuff. No one can be around, but sun can still hit that ground, and you ain't working. You can get some tomatoes or something,
yep.
and none of that. And it's weird. And you always hear this too, because people don't even know it's illegal to obtain rainwater in some.
Yeah.
That's
Why?
some just bull crap that they just do to say why because I said so.
That
Urgh.
rainwater is it's bad for the environment. Whoops.
That's a politician going, hey, look at my penis.
That,
It's it's
yeah.
it's it's pretty big, right?
Well, it's
It's
like,
pretty
did you
cool.
did you see that comic? He had the bit about how in the same year that Cardi B's "Wet Ass Pussy" like won the best song, they banned "Baby It's Cold Outside"
Did see this.
because that one's too rapey. But "Wet Ass Pussy," oh yeah, let the girls listen to that. Oh yeah, drop, drop, drop. Got some buckets and some mops. Wow.
I wrote the it was a thing. I actually have a movie. I wrote a little thing in it, but it's been played to death. This movie was never got off the ground. Small short movie, but I always have a thing about music. How the older generations like, well, blah, this and that, and it always comes down to yeah, the Beatles may have talked about this woman is an STD free call girl, but goddamn, they had a way to make it where it's sing along to everyone, and
Yeah.
that's an art. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, there is some sort of art. I don't have to get a mop after that song to be a
Well,
participant.
what they do is they'd say, "Yeah, no, we'll have a euphemism. She's got gonorrhea, but we call her lovely Rita Meetanay."
Right.
He's been getting
So,
slot now.
well, hell, when even Kings of Leon said the sex was on fire, they were at least somewhat subjective when we already knew what they were saying. Now it's very in your face.
Cardi B's like, "Let me artistically describe the physical sensations I'm having in my lady bits for 5 minutes while I shake the backside of me in front of children."
And I think that's fair. She has the freedom to do so, but in also return, she must have to sit and me explain for 5 minutes how my 5-year-old singing about hitting it from the back and going wild is a little problematic for me and my family. We'll go tit for tat. Like you can sing whatever you want, but when it's
Tit
on
for rap.
Z1077 and my sons go wild, I'm like, oh man, can't come on, let's put on some wholesome Def Leppard where we pour some sugar on some women. That's what we need.
Isn't that something? It's like so we do comedy. There's a lot of burlesque shows that will have comedians. I did a couple burlesque shows out in LA. Compared to the normal, nasty full nude shenanigans they got, this burlesque show was almost like going to church. Like it was classic love and just kind of flirty and a little innuendo, but not outright or anything. It was classy, and I was sitting here thinking, okay, a few years ago, I would have been looking at myself like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Now it's like this is the conservative side of what the heck has happened, and this is before 2020 even. It's crazy how far the Overton window has been moved. But I wanted to say something before I forgot it. In Germany, they were doing this green energy stuff, and it worked so well for them that they had to move to biofuel. And you know what that biofuel is, don't you?
Is that corn?
No, well, it's wood. So now they're just burning wood instead of coal because the green solution was so good. They had to rebrand wood so people didn't know that they were in the 1800s again. And that's today. That's going on today.
You know what's funny? You couldn't even do that in California with all the fires. They don't even have wood anymore. They couldn't even rename it. They're going to have to rename sand and desolate land as was it new beachfront property for the river Ellen was talking about.
This is
That's
why you're going to the beach. You get all the sand of the beach with none of the stinky water.
where's the beach? It's 50 miles that way, but look at all this beach. It's I hope you brought your sandals because it's hot. You know?
Oh man, that's how they do it. Is they mess up and they just rebrand it. You know, what was it when Biden incidentally said, "Hey, where's that person at?" and she was dead, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whatever his name, Raggedy Ann, Blackety Ann, she says, well, obviously the president had her top of mind. Top of mind. Like top of mind is nobody has ever said top of mind. Where did that come? They're making up terms as though they're common things, and then they just say it like, oh, everybody says top of mind.
That sounds like a Biden, like he wrote the speech like it. He just got that top of the mind, and you're like, "Are you sure?" What? No, everyone says top of the mind. Yeah, I'm Biden. You guys, and they're just like, "We gotta let. He's the president. You guys gotta, yeah, play it off like that's totally cool. Yeah, top of the mind to you.
Come on, man. I'm recording some slang popcorn. Come on, man. I like me some chocolate ice cream. Screw that Keystone Pipeline. That was more Bush. But you know what? Bush and Biden. I mean, you got these white bees here. Look, I don't know which one's dumber. I mean, Bush, I found out he was evil. You know, before I thought he was just left and right, you know, and the left was making fun of the right and yada. No, he's a skull and bones when he was evil. So he was actually smarter than we thought. Biden makes Bush look like Einstein. I mean, it's crazy. It's not natural.
I knew we were going to have trouble when Biden said, if you have trouble voting this year and you're African American and you have problem voting, then you ain't African American. And I was like, oh, Biden, that was a softball. And you just you're Hillary Clinton this whole election up right now. And that's what sucks when we want to think we're so progressive on the left, and sometimes we're just people, and we need to stop acting like that. It'd make our mistakes not seem so fucking atrocious. Or we could actually fall up the stairs once and twice if we weren't fucking so critical of everyone else and how they eat their sun chip bag. That's just my opinion.
That's a good point. You know, too, the issue is we've been taught from 2008. Obama's on the plate, ready to bat, and his slogan was "Change, you can believe it." Well, okay, change for change's sake. That's not necessarily a good thing. If your house burned down, that's a change, and you can believe in it.
Well,
we got to have progress. Requires progress. Change for change's sake could be good or bad, and they're wheeling and dealing, shell gaming us with this shit. That's what they're doing.
It was a great marketing thing. His next thing, though, his next year should be called compromise. Because change is great. When you want to change is awesome. When half of the country fundamentally disagrees you on such a level that it got weird in some aspects, whether it was right or wrong. Like there's a reason. I just think change is great when it's compromised too. You can't just like you walk in and it's like it's my hometown's like Central. It's called Salem now. Get used to it. Change. And there's no more buses. You have to ride unicycles everywhere. Change. Like it doesn't just because you say change doesn't make other people that really aren't aboard feel great about the change. Yeah. And when you leave half of your country where they feel like they're not heard, starts the beginning of what modern day politics we are now. Yeah, that's one, and I don't blame Obama. I don't blame these people. I blame the force around it. They found out what worked. They took a little piece of Bill Clinton playing saxophone on MTV and like, all right, a little bit of this, a little bit of Bush. Yeah, he lisps up, but he stays in the pocket. He means what the fuck he says, and and they made a perfect political juggernaut for each person, but after it's all said and done, it's turning more into a prize fight where no one feels fulfilled. And I think that's eventually we're getting angrier and angrier about it.
Two, keep in mind, I brought up Asimov. He wrote his Foundation trilogy before either of us were born. Part of it, you're right, it's not just Obama, it's not just Bush, it's not just Clinton. When you get right down to it, if you were to look at the world like from outside the world, like if we were playing Risk or something, they're each just a pawn on the board. And the actual players, these families behind Western and Eastern politics. For generations, they'll have a long game. And the idea is to do this for 10 years and then do this for 10 years and then do this for 10 years. So what they've been doing is steadily chipping away at independent capabilities of citizens in the United States for dependence, using Obama and then Bush. And Clinton was going to be after Obama. And they were probably, I think what they were going to do is launch COVID in 2017 or 18. I think that was going to happen.
I won't jump on that bandwagon with you. I'll stay over here firmly with my floaties on. But what I
Well, I don't think Trump's
I
perfect.
think
Definitely not.
our sheer smugness of thinking who the fuck Trump and not giving him any fueled that campaign like no other. Just thinking Hillary was going to make a layup
Yeah.
was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And if you watch the debates, Trump won them. And it was and after each one won them. And that's where a lot of people get most of their shit that isn't from their echo chambers. They want to see it from your mouth. That was their one time. And Trump killed it. This last time, I think you might be right. I think both of them may have leaned into COVID as for their own excuses for buffet COVIDism.
Well,
To
no, what
where
I was saying, um, if you dive down the rabbit hole, and you keep your floaties on if you like, but if you dive down the rabbit hole on this, I mean, Fauci was signing off on testing for a virus that was basically COVID-17, if you will. And they would give the virus to mice and they'd give vaccines to mice, and the vaccines would kill most of the mice. So this whole COVID thing, they've been letting on that it was an organic, unintended situation. But I don't believe that for a second. I think,
they,
I think,
PBS had the article, and this is what's crazy. They said it, but it got nothing for it. Because my wife, a lot of people have like, how can you make a vaccine that fast? And the story, you know how such a fucking leftist. I'm not even gonna put my but the story they went with, and I tend to think maybe it makes sense. Now I don't know after this was in the peak of it, was they were already practicing testing for a certain flu vaccine. And that's why they got it cold and all this other stuff. They were already 75% of the way there when COVID happened. That's how they got the other 25% so quickly. Um, I after seeing it all and all that, I don't know. It seems weird. It seems weird because there's 3 different vaccines with 3 different variabilities. What, none of these scientists got in the same room? I guess they couldn't because 'cause we're socially distancing. It
well, they
made
were saying,
me
when they launched it, they were saying if you take this vaccine, you won't get COVID. I mean, Biden was saying it. Rachel
Yeah,
Maddow
no,
was
that's
saying,
exactly what they said.
yeah.
They didn't say you'd be a walking carrier that could kill your family who didn't take the vaccine, and guess what? And that happened more times than other, and that what happened was, I just wish we came up and said, "We just don't know,"
Well,
or
here's the other
something
thing
like that.
that
If
ruins
we were
my.
just honest, it
I had
seemed
to
like so
write.
many people were not.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I had to write all this clickbait about taking flu vaccines. Now, I wasn't. I'm actually way more anti-vaccine now than I was before COVID. Before COVID, I was like, okay, some of these work pretty good. You just got to be careful with it. And I was always skeptical of the flu vaccine because the virus mutates faster than the vaccine can ever keep up with. And this was known. And also, by the way, if you account for comorbidities, COVID fatalities from the virus, not the vaccine, they're flu numbers. This was known too. And I knew this going into COVID because I was writing the clickbait. They knew before this vaccine came out that even if it worked, the virus was going to mutate. And now, just like 2 days ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying the reason that Maddow and Biden and Fauci, who said this was going to work, were wrong is because the virus mutated. How do they not know this when I knew it before COVID and I lived in a van by a beach, actually? It wasn't by a river, but I was also a comedian like old Farley. I was just one of those guys. How did I know it and they didn't know? They knew it. They
I'll throw another one in there. Let's say that even they didn't. They are politicians that know how to gain votes. So they thought the best way to get people to accept something is fuck you, take it. That's why. And if you don't, I'm going to ruin your life. That's why.
Yeah.
What? I'm a big component of vaccines, but I'll tell you what, in mid America, where this stuff is really going down, it's really hard to defend it when every 5 seconds they're talking out of the side of your mouth, and you're like, well, you're starting to sound like, well, it's just science, it's a living thing, and you're like, and then you're even worried about getting a booster or whatever, and then all this other stuff. It really did suck. The
Listen,
whole time.
it's so
Huh?
wrong for people to lose their jobs and things like that because they didn't want to take this obviously experimental vaccine. There's no way, even if they had been testing it for years beforehand, like the polio vaccine took like a decade. Okay, there's no way they were doing this all the way back in 2010, even with the conspiratorial nonsense. They were doing stuff with attenuated viruses in 2010 and before that, but they didn't have COVID figured out then. So there's no way that this whole warp speed. This is my biggest contention with Trump. I think what he did is he surrounded himself with experts that he thought he could trust, and he took their word as the expert. And he couldn't do that because they sold him a bill of goods, and now he won't back down from it. This vaccine was not a good idea. Give it optionally, fine. Don't force people into it. Don't say we can't go back to normal without it. We shouldn't have locked down in the first place. This whole thing, it's been
We
rotten.
did. Well, I don't know how I saw the pictures of New York and stuff like that. I'll be honest with you, in the mid, nothing. Everyone was deemed essential because we all had to go to work.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucked is somehow, I guess their son has to grow up real quick because he's learning math by computer and play like that's what changed most was our education
Remember
system
the Oregon
changed.
Trail? Well, now the Oregon Trail's taught by trannies who teach that 2 + 2 = fish. This is called progressiveness.
Oh, I got so mad at it because he would. I just still don't get it. He would go to school for. They'd be there for almost 8 hours, 7 hours. But when they were at home school, every day 30 minutes and he's done. Straight A student. This math doesn't work up. But when you do math at home on the internet, makes 2 + 2 = bad math. Like that's just how that works. So,
Two,
but
I was a substitute from 2012 to 2015 in Colorado. My mom's a school teacher. I was blessed to be homeschooled as a kid. I learned several things from my experiences. One, I skipped second grade because I was homeschooled, and my mom was a teacher at the time, and my dad was working. So I didn't need 8 hours a day. They'd give me my lesson books, and I'd go do them, and then mom would grade it and talk. I think she spent maybe 3 hours a day with me, and I skipped a grade. Two, when I went to sub down in Colorado, it was just a daycare. I couldn't believe. I can't imagine how bad it is in California, because in Colorado they had all these new program. The teachers were in new meetings for new curriculum every day, and there were always subs. That's what I was doing. I was subbing. So I always had a school to go to because the teachers were already always in some new training. Sometimes I'd be at a place for 2 months, and they'd have me do the what was it? What's it called? That new sort of math? Now I can't remember what it's.
Common Core.
Common Core. They were having me teach them Common Core math. Here's why I don't remember it. I never taught them Common Core math. I'm a sub. Doesn't matter what I do. You can kick. So I helped those kids. I taught them math, how I learned math. And guess what? They were able to do it. And then some guy came in and showed me the preferred method of teaching Common Core to these kids. And I'm sitting here barely able to follow him, thinking, this is just going to make it so a kid's afraid of math, because they've made it so making it so painful and complex to do 2 + 2 = 4. Like they have you structure it like an algebraic equation.
The Common Core is for people that grew up with anxiety and maybe ADHD in their head, because that's how I always did math, but it was chaotic. I always took it and broke it down into smaller things and smaller math problem to do it quick. But also, they're trying to teach techniques for kids to be calculators. We're
Yeah.
not all TI-82s. That
Well,
was you
even
can't teach kids that don't understand. 10 plus 10, well, 10, you got a minus here, 8 over here, and it's really like this.
mhm,
No, 10 plus 10 is 20. It doesn't matter where you fucking put the numbers. This isn't a Jim Carrey movie. This isn't
yeah,
number 23. It just always and that's hard for some people just to understand.
even Jesus had to learn Hebrew. So,
Right?
and he was God. I mean, he eventually he gets to a point where he's God in the flesh, but scripturally he's still learning and growing in wisdom, as it says, even though he's God in the flesh. What about the rest of us? Now, say you don't believe in Jesus. Children still have to develop over time. There's certain concepts. It doesn't matter how bright that kid is. He ain't going to be able to wrap his head around it. When I was in ninth grade, our teacher told us the reason we do algebra in ninth grade is because most students haven't developed enough intellectually speaking to understand abstract concepts. Now, this was understood in Wyoming in 2000. Now in 2023, we think that we can teach first graders calculus. And they're just concerned about, I want a lollipop and I'm going to throw dirt at Johnny during recess and pull Lucy's hair and see if I can find a grasshopper to put in the teacher's coffee. He's not going to think about a quadratic equation, no matter how many bright colors you paint it in. And that's how they sell the parents, though. They get the parents thinking, oh, I'm going to have a baby Einstein. No, even baby Einstein pooped his diapers, all right? That people progress over time.
He didn't even talk for like years, or it was like, wasn't that true? Like,
I don't know on that.
he was a poopy toddler that didn't speak. Like, I don't know if that's awful. I don't know.
So what you're saying is he was a normal German.
He should have been a scientist after all the hell they put him through after that, you know. And we're making some good points. Let's keep it going. I think we're on a roll. Illinois just recently, and this is what's crazy. Darren Bailey is your Republican. He actually lost to JP on your left there. JP is a running Democrat. His last name's Pritzker. He may have had some hands in the vaccine. I think he actually owns Pritzker vaccines or something, some part of that. So he's basically one of the richest men in Illinois.
Did he really? Did the guy on the right really lose, or did he lose?
Hey, dude, I live here. Let's not start that. Let's not start that. I just know before there was a red wave coming, and I guess they got Cardi B because they got it wasn't that it rained blue and everyone got their mops. I don't know.
It was like a kaiju. Donald Trump's face is the red wave, and then Cardi B, she's like drop, and then it's a tidal wave of STDs just meeting together and then barely coming to shore.
Oh, dude, I live in a if you go on a Google Maps and you had like a demographic of like it said Republican or Democrat, you would be able to. Oh, there's Tim. There's Tim right there.
Yeah.
The one blue dot. Hey, don't tell the others.
Oh man,
well, JP, I was a little pumped for him, but here, after it's all said and done, I think JP is trying to get a fast track to the presidency, just like Obama did. When the COVID happened, we were one of the strictest states up there. After Springfield, he kept sending people to close bars down, and they just kept going open. We kind of did what we want, but in theory, on paper, he was one of the strictest. He was all this all this. Well, he went even further today, which makes it really hard to be a left when you say, hey, they're not coming for your guns, because he came for their guns. That's what he did today. He banned semi-automatic assault rifles. Not a big deal. You could just stop the sale, and if you get it, cool. Well, no, if you have it, you have to register now. You have to. So now that's making people very fearful. Now you know exactly where I live and what gun I have. What's going to keep you from coming to take it? And that is what they've been shouting here for about. Don't take our guns, and they basically said you can't sell them anymore. Darren Bailey, right here, the Southern Illinois Republican member of the state Senate, says he will not comply. I and millions of the other gun owners in the state will not comply, said Bailey, who is from Xenia. Xenia's very close to here, maybe 30 or 40 minutes. Is a rural Clay County town. You've got to know that the actions you're taking right now are I can't even. I'm not going to be, but very treasonous and against tyranny. It's tyranny and it's against our freedom and basically the Constitution. He goes and say these weapons on the list were designed to do one. This is the components. The Democrats said this. The weapons on the list that have been banned are to do one thing and one thing only: to kill people. Now I already know what people will say. I've said no. Kill people, defend. Around here, it's a tool. And I
Well,
don't.
especially
I'm a
over
little.
there. I mean, y'all got what is it? That city on the river in Illinois. It's not Chicago. It's south of there. It's not DuBois. It's something. It's on the river.
We got like Mississippi, Ohio. We got a lot of rivers that come
There's a big
through.
river town that's just it's horrible. It's Decatur.
Oh no, hey,
Is that
Decatur.
right?
I've never heard good things about
Yeah,
Decatur.
yeah,
Horrible seems like an accurate.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one.
100%.
Because it's like there's stats and you can look this up. Apparently, there was something like 1 to 500,000 defensive gun uses every year, and there's 50,000 or less total killings every year. So even on the low end, defensive gun use saves twice as many people. And south side of Chicago, bad Leroy Brown. I mean, that side of town, you don't mess around. There's going to be some gun sounds going down.
I don't like this part. I don't like it. I've always thought maybe we can limit rounds, clip sizes, or stuff like that. Even then, I talked to, and this is I'm naive. So guess what I did, guys? I know this is crazy left thing. I asked someone on the other side who is right. Why do they like these guns? Why don't they care about regulations? And what they said is actually some very valid arguments that everyone can give. One, they hunt. Two, it's their freedom. If you can buy something and you like guns, why wouldn't you? If there was a super awesome guitar and you were a guitar enthusiast, but it shreds your fingertips and it's probably not or so for some reason they say you shouldn't buy it, you're still going to want to buy it. It's in your market and you're free to do so, and it's sitting there like this pencil without me clicking it does not harm a single soul. So and they defend the defense thing. They think honestly, if people come in defend your home and against country, so with all those, you're going to get that a lot. And I don't know what to do with to stop gun violence, but I know this has not worked. This has not worked in a long time, and it does. It's just going to give us a circle of
Well, and the
each side
cops
going,
so
"Nuh."
bad. They're defunding the cops, and even before they're defunding the cops, if you have an armed assailant at your property, they're not going to get there inside 5 minutes. You'd be lucky if they get there in a half hour.
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't have bail now either. You could just you could run over someone, give them a bag of heroin, and go, "Sorry, officer," and they'll give you a thing. Please show
The
up to
governor's like, oh
court.
yeah, no bail, and if you've got guns, you're the bad guy.
Right.
This person
Right.
we just run out of prison for raping a chick is in your house.
So
My
that's exactly right. A guy comes up, is trying to sell something that maybe selling something to your kid in your front yard. It gets mouthy and or whatever. Something happens. You get physical or even brandish that semi-automatic rifle that you shouldn't. Oh my goodness, you're going to
man,
jail as the other guy gets a citation.
every gun's semi-automatic unless you've got a bolt action.
Exactly. I'm not a big gun guy, but I was raised around them, hunting and all this stuff. I think honestly it needs education. And we need to also just come truth to it. We need to value human life again. One way or another, we need to find it.
Well,
Human life is a
here's something scary. Okay, so say you do something like South Korea, where you can only have a gun if you store it at the police station, and it can only be for hunting birds. That's what they do in South Korea. Their knife violence is off the chart. You ever watch a South Korean movie? All the gangsters don't have guns. They'll just stab the bejesus out of each other, and it's brutal. I'd rather be shot, honestly. Same in China. All these in the UK now. Oh no, we don't got guns. No, we don't have guns, gov. What we've got is we've got migrants who form their own no-go zones, and they'll stab the shit out of you. So you can't have a knife on you though, because you might get violent. If you've got a pocket knife on you, that's a deadly weapon. You could do time behind bars for that.
if you're like me and maybe made some bad mistakes and slept on some sketchy couches and had some sketchy roommates, you always hear that one guy going, "Just give me some fertilizer and I'll make some changes." And that shows you how much, and that right there, that sentence, first move. You
Yeah.
need to move. You don't need to be incriminated. You don't need to be a criminal witness or an accessory to
Grab your
anything.
telephone, grab your wallet, say you're going to the bathroom, and moonwalk out of there, Bill.
Get out. But also, you see, bad people will find ways to do bad shit with even dirt and air you breathe. Uh, keeping these weapons away from good people's hands is not necessarily the way to do it. And I'll tell you, most of the people that buy these guns are good people, are educated. We need to stop harming the people that do it. And I do believe I have a solution. I have a solution for school shootings. I have it for many things, even locally, and it just involves raising taxes or finding a way to do it. But I've thought of many ways because to make it all happy, and what it always comes down to is you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
We just need to stop worrying about us and keep the kids safe. Whatever
Well,
keeps the kids safest is what
it's
we should be worrying
they don't
about.
even really want us safe. They just want us beholden to their power.
Yeah.
Because well, you saw what happened in Uvalde. Well, never mind. We're going to get in that another time. Another time. That's right. We talked about that beforehand. Sorry, guys. To be continued. I'll say this: when I was in high school in Gillette, Wyoming, guns in the pickup truck hunting racks. No violence. Actually, before I got to high school, like the year before, you could actually still smoke, and they had students smoking lounges. So I don't know if Wyoming's the best example here, but my point is, places like Wyoming, you don't hear about this sort of violence. So there's something that has been lost in mainstream modern progressive culture that has left a void that is filled with violence more often than older cultures who aren't quite as progressive. And
You'll hear one side say, "Well, that's because everyone has guns and people know better." You bring a gun to one gun to 12 other gunfights, and you know the odds. Same when we went to school hunting. Kids went to hunting at 5 a.m. They were late for school. They had gun racks.
yeah,
It wasn't a problem until we were a senior and they changed the policy thereafter. Um, but yeah, no, it wasn't. What you find out is, I guess one of the first lessons you're taught as a gun is where the end goes boom kills, and it's fucking serious.
my dad
Yeah,
told me never point your gun at anything you don't intend to shoot.
exactly. And I hate to say it, I think a lot of people don't get that education. One
They
way or
don't.
shape, they
I
just
met
don't.
people in Colorado that were just boom, boom, playing around with it, and I was like, "Whoa, buddy, that's you don't we don't play that game with this gun. Oh, there's no ammo in it. The gun is loaded even when it's not loaded. It's another gun safety thing. It's always loaded. You don't point at anything unless you intend to shoot.
Yeah,
Those two rules are going to save the majority of problems.
yeah. I just think that's what we need. If one way or another, I'm tired of my son having clear book bags and getting wanded in school when we could just maybe educate him a little bit more. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's talk about the ever trending. We're going to go into. Oh, actually, no. Forget this. This is actually right off the banners. This is new. It's one of Kevin's picks of the week, but it's even a good story. Um, these robbers here. This is stock photo. This, of course, ain't them, but
Nicely done. You got that put up quick.
robbers call police for help moving belongings that they were stealing.
I
And
I
I
saw
can't make this up. They called the Polk County Service and yeah, they were stealing. So they just need help. What do you
yeah.
got? Did you go ahead?
Well, okay, so I shared the story. I saw the sheriff or the deputy or whoever was involved in that. He was giving a news conference. And basically what he says is, well, we knew who this feller was because first he burglarized the dollar store, but the feller on the dollar store looked at the CCTV camera, and he says, oh yeah, I seen that old boy. He came in today and applied for a job and gave me his phone number. And we looked at the old boy. We said, oh, we know about where he is in this neighborhood in Poinciana. So we went looking for him, and we found him in this house that was for sale. Sure enough, there he was in the house with his girlfriend. And listen to me now. She actually said this to me. I'm not making this up. This is how I'm doing my best to.
Right, yeah, that's
She
great.
actually said this to me. Listen now. Listen. She said to me now, can you give us a ride to the airport and help us with our stuff? We don't think we like it so much in Florida as we thought. So basically, these criminals came down. And he goes on about, I don't know if they do that in New York, but we don't do that in Florida. He shits on New York for like 5 minutes after that. But they came down from the north, And the guy confessed to it, and they just confessed to it and just asked
Wow.
the police for help. And he said, "Well, I don't know what they do in New York, but down here in Point Siena, you're going to jail." So they locked him, as you should.
No,
What is going on that they thought in their 20s that you could get away with that? That's so weird.
it's crazy. I'm gonna call this because I see this too. I'm calling this the Chopped TV show effect.
Oh,
Because you gotta listen to me on this. It's gonna make sense. In Chopped, I've watched all 38 seasons. All 3,000. I'm not even kidding. There's way too many seasons. That's true. I've watched a lot of them. 90% of the time, near the second dish, if you make it through the first round, that's where they have a little bit more time to get into character. And whoever has the deepest, impactful story, usually if you cry or something bad happened to you, you'll end up winning because that's how TV works. Sorry, reality TV ain't really real. It's just made to look that way. So people believe that their heart up stories matter and people care and that people will give them stuff even when they're in the fucking wrong. And that's what I call choptitis. It's basically people thinking that their plight is so overwhelming that you should pity them at all costs and give them all freelance. And it's a fucking sickening. Happens everywhere. It's a lot more woe is me stuff. I don't get it. I wasn't raised that way, especially because I was homeless at 17, and I was homeless, but I still lived in a hotel room. Still technically homeless. I didn't own anything, but um, one thing that always got me: I woke up one day, didn't feel like going to work, didn't feel it. If I don't go, no one else is going to go it, and I need to get stuff. I need to live.
yeah.
So you need to. It doesn't matter what happened to me. Oh, homeless at 17. It's not going to pay my bills. It's not going to put gas in my car. Time to just move on. You can't let. I know it seems you can't let the misfortunes or tragedy define your whole life.
100%.
It's
We're supposed to encounter these things, overcome them, and grow. And we've been taught that these things can't be overcome and there's no ability to grow. So what we need to do is monetize our victimhood in order to get what we want. I mean, victimhood is now like having stocks. Oh, yeah, I've got such and such disease, so I have to sit up front. Oh, I've got such and such disease. That's why I smoke this weed. Oh, is it? Is it because you got such and such? Oh, you just like weed? Why can't you say that?
I,
And
I like that and offensiveness. I
yeah,
could go in
yeah.
here because how did All in the Family go on? Blazing Saddles, Married with Children, Friends, Will and Grace, all these shows happened, and now none of them could be reran.
Even
Could
Arrested
be-
Development is too much these days.
oh my lord, yeah, because hey, I'm a no nude too. We can't discriminate
Yeah, there's
against
probably
the
real
no
people.
nudes.
And you get your Rachel Dolazols, and everybody knows it's a complete sham. But somehow, it's only the people that they want to actually get in trouble, and the other people set the trends. Like I've been on a few reality shows. I was blessed to get on America's Got Talent. I was on this show called It Takes a Church. Like you said, it's not reality. It's just there's no script, and so they're basically impromptu. Oh, that'll be a good scene. Do that thing again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it this way. Do it. It's not reality. They're cutting things together. AGT was more real than the It Takes a Church TV show I was on. They were both fun. Don't get me wrong, but point being, it isn't reality. However, because they're looking for that narrative for the 30-minute episode, the unimaginative producer zeroes in on that sob story. And then what? We don't even have normal TV anymore. We have all these reality shows with all these fake sob stories, like you're saying. That's a
There's
good.
a reason why
That's
uh,
true.
the reason why they didn't revisit Pimp My Ride cars or a home makeover houses. So because the next year of their life did turn out the way. So happy book at the end of it. It's like this big house is what in Texas? Bring that Thai tan guy back. This is ridiculous. I was poor before. What do you think I can afford this house?
Yeah, that show. It was like it's like well, my husband is an online Instagram promoter, and I make kale recipes to be paired with avocado toast. Budget $700,000. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, if you look at IMBD, you'll start realizing some stuff. The Amazing Race season 1, it just seems odd that out of the 14 people on the show, 8 of them previously worked on the Rosie O'Donnell show.
How weird is that? I
How
mean,
it's almost like they got a group of the people that they already knew were
these
familiar with
people have
TV
a
and
little
make them seem like they're real people and stuff. I don't know.
They're just stumbling into all these lucky situations. No, that's how it all works, though. It's all that we're in a matrix, man. It's left or right. We are the cattle, and they don't want any lobsters getting out of the tank. So any lobsters they see getting out of the tank, the other crabs come and pull us down. And we've been conditioned to do that. So oftentimes we help when we shouldn't do that.
The
And what
steak's only good because they tell us it's good.
right.
You're like 100%.
Yeah.
Let's talk about art and culture.
Good
Art
save.
and culture, we're talking about actually, this is actually kind of cool. It goes into it. I'm kind of pumped. Was Thanos right? Is superhero movies dead? And there's a silver lining to this because I'm just getting saturated with so much superhero stuff. And they're actually deciding this is the year the superhero died, thanks to certain movies like Top Gun and Avatar: Way of the Water. They're saying what could kill the nostalgia of comic book heroes? Nostalgia of Tom Cruise and some like and blue people and Pocahontas because that hits deep. That's the only way that could beat them. But what do you think? Like, I'm kind of excited. I after seeing the first Avengers Endgame, I thought it ended perfectly, and now it just seems like I don't care about the Winter Soldier or Falcon. Like, you ain't Captain America. Like, it just seems like it already ran its course, and a lot of this stuff is obviously. Um, corporations thinking the pandemic boom of streaming was going to last for fucking ever, in my
Well,
opinion.
they've been deluded by their ideology, I think, because a lot of the reason, yeah, the nostalgia bubble burst, but another big reason comic book movies aren't as good anymore is because every damn one of them some sermon from a blue hair. And I don't mean we talked about that. It ain't an old fart. It's one of these blue hairs, like Winter Soldier. Be better, Captain. You got to be better, Governor, or whatever. And he's talking to the audience, just beating us over the head with this stuff. She-Hulk, she's twerking because of women empowerment. It's what's happening.
I like what you're saying because we've already had in my opinion, the perfect woke movie, if you want to call it that, and it did it right, and it was called Watchmen,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it wasn't beating over your head over like be better, recycle, or women are more powerful than men at all times. So here's where, okay, I'm going to get into women are more powerful than men in every way. But I'm going to tell you a story, Kevin, about how Hollywood hates us. It hates anything you like. I grew up loving Doom Guy from Doom. His name is Doom Guy because that's how cool he is. He goes into hell, he kills a bunch of demons. He does it because you ain't going to kill his bunny rabbit or fuck with his hometown. That's his only reason. Now, in the books, they get a little bit thing, but that's fan fiction. We're not talking about that. If you want to look up fan fiction, I'll send you some links. But when they made the movie, they did it with The Rock. It was okay. They decided to make another movie. Okay. Doom has a great lineage of first person shooters that already goes back to Wolfenstein and all that. So they decided to make a low budget movie called Doom Annihilation. Guess who played Doom Guy? Kevin?
a woman.
A very tiny woman
Oh,
played Doom Guy. And guess the guy who looked like Doom Guy got killed immediately. And the guy who looked like his father they killed everyone who looked cool and left this girl who couldn't even look like she filled out a LA like bulletproof vest. It looked heavy on her. She looked like a turtle. And that's when I was like, it's gone too far. You can't make Doom Guy a woman. his name's Doom Guy. I'm sorry, that's how you can't just shove it in there. And I've never looked. That's the dumbest stuff I've ever seen
It's
to
so
this day.
too, because it's like, okay, you know that they've got an agenda, that they're trying to reach men specifically and undermine our fantasy and our ideology and our imagination, because they could create their own properties with unique characters. I mean, they already had strong female characters that guys like. Ripley in Alien, okay?
Dude, hardcore.
In Fifth Element.
Yes.
These movies, I mean, Leia Organa in Star Wars, for goodness sake. I mean, she was firing pistols and saving people, and she was hot too. They've had movies where women were strong, independent, and yet still retained their femininity. But now they're trying to say, no, men and women are interchangeable.
The whole horror genre, The Last Woman, the virgin pure woman that didn't do the debauchery at the Camp Crystal Lake, that gets to survive because she's smarter. She ain't getting porked in the back. She helped the guy who's handicapped. You know, it was the guy who came out, y'all gonna die. It was crazy. She didn't throw a sandwich at him. Like simple things like that we learn, like, oh yeah, if you're a good person, some guy in a hockey mask may not murder you. It was an easy translatable topic, and they were still tough. When there was a battle sequence, they could take a punch and deliver one too. They were this whole genre was built, and it seems like we forget that because Sly Stallone was in 5 Rambos or something. I don't get where.
Well, it's a false. It's like generating a run on the market. It's synthetic. They're generating false outrage for which they have a false solution. It's thesis, antithesis, synthesis, the Hegelian dialectic triad. So they tell us, oh, there's this inequality, and oh, look how bad it is, but look at our solution. But really, it's all like a reality TV show. It's all Matrix. It's all fiction. It's all fake.
We were talking about the meta and fake, and I have to say, I think these numbers are fake. It looks like Avatar will be going up. It's now past Top Gun, and is now the 15th highest grossing movie of all time.
I've heard it's
And
yes, 1.5 billion now. That's crazy.
I haven't seen one. I haven't met one person that's watched it, so that's what's crazy to me. I've seen more people that watched The Menu and Knives Out than this movie, but somehow this movie $1 billion. I'm going to be steadfast, and I'm going to continue to talk crap about it and not watch it. It's just not something that gets me. Go ahead.
Cam, because I'm too cheap, especially since they started patronizing me and trying to brainwash me. I just can't be bothered with Hollywood. I watch it's primewire.mx. You can watch anything there. And they've got a cam of the Avatar now. Soon they'll have an HD when it goes to Netflix.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I watched 20 minutes of it, and I got so bored I found Puss in Boots. And let me tell you something. That Puss in Boots sequel is great.
You don't sleep on Banderas.
Antonio Banderas, fear me if you dare. He doesn't.
If you guys have watched Avatar, please tell me what you think about it. I think the only thing I've watched about Avatar is the SNL skit about how lazy the title is. Just papyrus. The font is just papyrus. Like the whole skit's like he just highlighted Avatar and clicked on papyrus, and we all let him get away with it. Don't let James Cameron get away with it anymore.
Unobtainium? Unobtainium.
Yes. This is ridiculous. All right, we're going back into politics because this is a double thing. It's going to be kind of we're going to hit on many McCarthy. We got a new House committee guy, and when that happened after the 15th vote, there was a brawl, I guess, close to a brawl. They accused the redneck GOP of drinking before the fight. Here's a kind of clip of what's going on over here. When you read, the Democrats were trolling Republicans with popcorn, and they were a little after the 14th failed vote. So it just sounded like a bunch of older men in like double overtime.
What vote are we on? 14? All right, take a shot. Hell, I'd be doing that. What? That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Okay.
All this was stupid. And when I heard they threw popcorn, I was like, this is perfect. Like, how, like, is that Kevin? I fucking hate him. Yeah, yeah, throw a stiff kernel at him. You were supposed to be the fucking goddamn. The Wonder Woman.
Oh, it's
That
too funny.
I like how they called him a redneck too. It's crazy because the Republican was called the Democrat redneck, and I was like, "That's not how it usually goes," but I'll take it. I'll take it. Democrats need that. I'm sorry, we need that edge. A little redneck, put a little dirt on it. You ain't hurt Democrat. Just rub a little dirt on it. That's what we need. Rub a little dirt on it. Oh, but yeah. So 15th the charm. How do you feel about her? New speaker or whatever and the situation.
He's a swamp thing. I'm glad that he has put the brakes on some taxes to the IRS that were going to the IRS. That was good. I think he's going to do just enough to seem like he's doing something and actually stop short of anything that would actually benefit the people because he's a swamp thing.
As I tell everyone, it's always nice to see someone's career peak in real time, and we definitely did it because now that's about it. You never hear about him again. Just like he'll go fade in obscurity, hopefully. And
McConnell, McCarthy, there's something the MC guys, like all three of them are stinkers. All three MC guys, McConnell, McCarthy, and there's another one I can't remember his name. They're all stinkers. They might as well be not Republican.
yeah, they called him actually an alligator. His whole party called him an alligator because it's from the swamp. I fucking love that.
The
God
LeBron
damn.
James of special interest fundraising. That's fun.
I'll tell you what Congress needs. It's an open mic night. One open mic night, fucking roasting people, and I think that would help out a lot. Just get all
Oh
this
yeah.
passive aggressiveness off, and some of them are pretty fucking funny. I've been to some open mics that aren't as good as that shit. So like, give them up for that. We're going to keep it moving along. State rights or state wrongs. These are actually a double story we're going to talk about because in South Carolina, they've struck down state abortion ban. But in Minnesota, they've actually increased the rights for abortions. Um, what do you? I'll start off with this, Stevos. It's the product of it. We can't say both for states' rights or wrongs. I guess if you don't like it, you got to move. It's the freedom of the people that voted for that area. Federally, here's what I wrote down earlier, and you could disagree, but I thought this was great for freedom, but not necessarily great for women's rights because it's great for freedom of humans. Now, if we're going to dissect that more, some of these are not going to be like in South Carolina. That really wasn't, in my opinion, a win for women's rights. But you have to respect the system, and those people don't want their taxpayers' money, even 1 cent, going to that. I talked to a lot of people who go to church every Sunday, and I asked them like, "What's is because I'm more about choice. What's the main deal?" And they fundamentally find it what I came after talking to them is morally and unethical that even if one of their dollars for taxes goes to something like that because they're so against it, and I find that very noble. And if you really believe in that, you don't want your money going to that, and you can put the right people in legislation to make taxes. What's wrong with that? In aspects. Now, so it's great in freedom. Now, individual women's rights, that sucks. But I don't know if this is. It, it's a byproduct of the Supreme Court. Now, with the Roe versus Wade, we're putting it back to states' rights. Now, we can get into that. I think sometimes the state rights things they use to hide that big to get some bullshit to go on to go through. But
Well,
I think you got to let people vote. If people say just with this, if they say, "Hey, I don't want this in my thing," that's kind of goes to what we were saying in episode one. If you perform in a town, they're like, "We really don't like your material. You don't want to be there." It's kind of shitty to thumb your nose and keep doing it. It's almost disrespectful.
yeah,
Now, there's different ways to maybe break that down and talk to them in open communications. I should have probably said that better in the first episode when we were talking about drag and all that. But also, I just know visceral hate. I've called up places, hey, you want to do comedy? Been called the devil. So in some areas, dick jokes is just too risque. I've ruined a preacher's day because he showed up to the Good Old Boys of Comedy show and thought we were good old boys and not the good old boys. You know what and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I'm knee deep in my cousin uh, affair joke, and I'm wondering why is there a weird atmosphere going on, and it's not Frosty the Snowman on the TV. And then it come to find out it was the deacon and the preacher of the church decided to show up to comedy night at the American Legion.
Whoops.
What I was like, marketing lesson learned. Put a parental advisory sticker on that thing.
Oh, that's too funny. I think there's a lot of valid points there. Here's the thing about Roe versus Wade. So it was federal. It was a federal thing. It should never have been that way in the first place. That was actually going ahead of beyond what our Constitution was supposed to do. It was actually a little unconstitutional. In fact, it was. It was good to be struck down. I think it's better that the states have the choice to choose. Now, personally, I do think it should be federally illegal. But we can get into the choice argument because, babies got no choice. And where's their choice? But anyway, I think it's better to have it given to the states. And the people who got all up in arms are crazy because basically the states who didn't want it now don't have it. And the states who have it doubled down. Now in LA, you can abort a baby after it's born. Same in New York. I mean, that's fantaside. But so the leftist states still have it. Nobody's lost any abortion rights. None of them
actually turned into more of a dividing issue for the country more than anything.
Yeah, it's weird. But so I think personally, I mean, we talked at the first episode, the IRS values human life between $1 and $2 million. Because even if you're 18 and you work at the gas station at 20 grand a life, 20 grand a year, by the time you're 68, that's $1 million. Well, we've killed more than 50 million babies in this country. Now, imagine each of those reaching the age of 18 and making $1 million starting at 20 grand a year and going up 1 to 2 million. I mean, that's a sizable chunk of the economy. We think that there's too many people. This is Malthusian propaganda. I don't think it's possible to have, I think it is possible to have overcondensation. That's too many people in one place. But when you have more people spread out, you have more resources and more economic opportunity.
You're not wrong. Again, leftist or centrist, depending on what he says, Bill Maher has actually touted how responsible of a person he is because he doesn't have kids and didn't reproduce because he's lowering so many carbon resources and all that. So what you're literally saying is a movement that is happening, and statistics actually go by it many ways. How we can get into it more and more, but I don't have the stuff up me, so I'm going to look like an idiot a little bit. But I think it's funny that states' rights can do the abortion issue, right? But with migrants, it's still a federal issue, yet those states don't get to say much of it.
Isn't that something? Because it should be like, okay, California, you want to let them in? Let them in. Texas says no. Arizona says no. Okay. And a problem. Let California be the vehicle, the gateway to the east. Why does that not work?
I need to know from the left, why won't that work? Why? Because if Texas didn't want them that just means more funds and resources to go to help those people in California in an area where people want them to be anyways. We're actually funneling them in. If you're forcing people down people's throats, vaccines or anything, we've already seen from the past years how well that goes. So if people don't want, you're going to get, hey, and Texas is like, nah, we don't want any. And then California starts booming, and shit's like, hey, maybe we want a little. And then maybe they'll change then. Or it flips the other way. California's like, this is an awful idea. Hey, everyone, don't be like that. At least we're doing something. Because I believe it's a free country. I want proper vetting, migrants to come over here, all that. But I also know that in hindsight we also, as a country, I don't think we're the least protective of our borders. And somehow I think that is naive.
When it's real migration, I'm all for migration. People get that wrong. They think conservatives just don't like people who aren't of the same ethnic background. No. I'm all for migration. What I'm against is illegal. See, look at how they put that. Why are migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border in record numbers? No. Why are illegals? Because migrants aren't. You're not migrating if you haven't legally come into the country. You're invading like somebody coming in the back door of a house. There's a distinction, and they don't want us to remember that distinction.
That's what they're saying. Exactly what they said. Basically, this is also another. Who would have thought a pissing match between Biden and Trump? It's like it's ridiculous. Trump had this is just information I read in the article. I think called order called Title 42. It was more strict on immigrants coming through.
Yeah.
We can get into that right or wrong and all that, but I that's crazy. I saw that. We'll get into that another time. We're talking about this. So they're saying actually they want to stop, if I read this right, want to stop the order Trump did so they can get more of these migrants to come in who are pleading asylum. Um, and if I read right, Title 42 is kind of to protect us from people exploiting this very thing here. Because what it does say, and I didn't know this either, if you are a migrant, you could still live in America and wait for your citizenship to come through. They don't automatically ship you through unless of various things. So a lot of these horror stories we hear are magnified on each side to push their agenda when it is just a bunch of troubled people in reality just trying to find a better way. And in some aspects maybe this wasn't the best right for them. We're just trying to help them the best way we can too, the way I see it on the outside looking in. I'm also dumb. I also have heard from people that live there, it's a completely different animal. I can say, like, just from experience, I have never experienced coyote bringing 50 people through my front yard. I never experienced what that happens to an economy, good or bad. So I would like to actually hear more from the people in that state and what they would like to do instead of bullcrap. And if we want to do, I would also, when we were going to do the wall, I believe in a digital wall. If we were going to do that, I think that's a little bit more where we actually track. You don't stop them, but you know where they're coming and their motions, so you can be more accurate where they're going to show up and where they're at. Does that make sense? It was someone proposed on PBS a long time ago that some areas a physical wall will help out a lot, but in some of the vast areas it's impossible to patrol adequately or just costs too much money. That electronic monitoring system could actually help us
Well, the money thing
beneficial
is
there.
all just a red herring because they sent 100 billion to Ukraine and Trump's wall was 11 billion. So they've already spent 10 times that for nothing. So that whole thing, that was just smoke and
The
mirrors.
Democrats didn't want it because it led back to, in my personal opinion, Democrats didn't want the wall because they thought because of what Obamacare and the Affordable Health Care Act. In my opinion, I thought they were trying to get back at that aspect. Like
Well,
we had this, and you guys kind of tried to do everything you could to ruin it. And his main platform was the wall and all this, when it really wasn't. But that was the main thing they were trying to attack. And I think that's why they were trying to go. They couldn't even admit that in some areas it might be helpful. Yeah,
well,
there's fucking ladders or stuff like that, but we need to do something.
remember though, you got to look at it like we're playing Risk, and each of these issues is a pawn on the board. So
Yeah.
there's a few things that come from this migrant. There's over 50 million illegals, and there's 330 million. So about 1 in 7 people in this country right now is illegal. What does that mean? Well, it means a huge national voting block because the leftist counties, they let illegals vote, which is insane. But that's why they're so against the voter ID laws, is because
Okay.
it makes it so you've got a huge voting block, and it's the DNC that's running point man on this, and they're telling all those illegals, you vote, you have to vote and you do it this way. Ironically, a lot of illegals are Catholic and they don't like what the DNC's up to, so they don't. So that's backfiring a little bit, thankfully, in my opinion, but that's part of the agenda. Here's the other thing. They are like cattle or chattel. It's like we're stealing the cattle of another farm. So the powers that be look at you and me like a heifer. You know, how much milk or meat can they get off of us? Well, the Mexicans are cheap labor, and yeah, they don't pay taxes, but they can be used in a way that's off the books because of that. And you can get them to vote. You can have your cake and eat it too. So there's that, and then there's this side of it is the you were talking about the coyotes in Texas. 50 people died in the back of a trailer from a coyote. What they'll do is they'll bring them up in a tractor trailer and then park them before the truck way station. And for whatever reason, the guy couldn't come back. He had to abandon the truck. All those people stuck in the tractor trailer died. And you didn't hear about it. You can Google that story, but that happened. So there's horrible atrocities, but human trafficking is a big deal. So say you and I are worth $1 to $2 million over a productive life. If we're trafficked as children, that number goes up. You see? So there's also, I mean, 50 people instead of being 50 million, now it's 100 million because you traffic them to all the perverts.
That makes sense. So this ain't even a thing so much. You could actually, and this is what's crazy, because as me being I'm easy. I'm not gonna throw all my values, but it's easier for me to comprehend that if you say, "Hey, we're not good and people," because all you hear is good people, bad people coming in. We don't want the bad people, but you're like, nah, actually, dude, like trafficking. You know how bad human trafficking is. Fucking Ashton Kutcher from that '70s show is speaking about Congress about trafficking.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. And that dude lost his car, and he still knows where he knows about this shit. So, like, that's
Where's
where
my
I'm
car?
like,
Well, I'll tell you where it
why
ain't.
don't you say
Bunch of
that
traffic
then?
kids. Yeah.
If we're doing it to where, like, it seems like in some of this aspects we need to. I like this conversation because I was always in my mind of this black and white, but when you say something like that, there's a gray area, and we could work to help those people out while still being beneficial on both sides. It
Yeah.
might be work, but Jesus, come on, guys,
Yeah.
at least help us,
The
meet
end
us in the
result,
middle.
you know what it is? The reason evil doesn't create, it only leeches. What we're dealing with in terms of corruption and leadership is evil that's leeching off a system that was created by means those who leech off it can't understand or replicate. So they insinuate themselves into positions of power and take all they can before the gravy train's over. Perfect example. I think we talked about it last time. In Colorado and LA, they have these government dependent agencies that get funded by the taxpayer to stop homelessness. But then homelessness gets worse, and now you have a government agency that's sucking off the taxpayer teat. That if homelessness goes away, so does their existence. Now they can't justify their existence. Well, we're seeing a similar thing with this border crisis. I mean, there's money to be made here by corrupt people who are siphoning off resources and humans via trafficking because the borders are porous. Whereas if we stop that from happening, then other countries are going to have to deal with the good and the bad in their area, which is going to make the border safer. We're not going to have as much difficulty in terms of crime and corruption and leeches, which makes our country do better economically. It just takes longer, and there's less opportunity for leeches. The
I
leeches,
like
that's
I,
it.
I like that. Well, I'm going to throw this is going to be a segue kind of into this. Can we have heroes anymore? Because as we're throwing this up to, we said the death of the superhero and all this, we're not believing that superhero. I always found Kennedy my family did too, a respectful man. But when you look any man under the microscope, leader or not, there's flaws. And you can even Reagan, highly renowned, now flaws. I always like Carter. It was flawless. Okay, like let's just okay. Like I even know that. Is it possible with our highly scrutinized way of what it is to be good or ethical that we could even have a hero that we could all rally around? Because we're so easy to pick polarized. Because Trump could get the masses, but he's polarizing. It just as much as people love to love him, people want to hate him just as much. And we've seen so much of that. Can we in our society now develop a hero that we all can get behind? Is it possible?
I
Like,
think so, but I think the issue is it has to be organic rather than synthetic. Will Rogers is such a man. He's dead now. He died. He was in his 50s, but he was a legit cowboy, did legit tricks. People legit loved him. There wasn't any swamp behind the man. He just got popular because he resonated with the people, and he died in a plane crash. He might have been killed. It was probably a real thing because they were going over the North Pole. So, that was probably legit. But he was so popular, they said that, no, but we're not going to go to war in America unless Will Rogers says so. And this was before World War II. That was said about him. He was that popular. Yes, we can have heroes like that. The issue is, because of that reality and the popularity of people like that, the powers that be want to control who the people take as a folk hero. And so they're not letting natural opportunities result in a crop of heroism, if you will. They're not letting it happen. They're using social media and the neural network we're in, to segue all the way back to the beginning, to control us, so that only the people they want get up. And that's why Trump really hit so hard, is because he had enough momentum to bust out of that net. And he had more momentum than they had planned for in terms of corrupt rigging of the election type infrastructure. So that's why people liked him and hated him so much.
Well, the people in history will never repeat this, because it actually goes back to Truman. I listened to a PBS documentary about Truman's elections. If you ever want to watch it, mirror a lot of what's going on here. When Trump, you can't get beat. This Dewey Cox is going to kill Truman. Kill him. Well, Dewey was a Democrat that people just thought felt hollow, that said the right things but didn't mean it. What do you mean, like Hillary Clinton? So it was a big shock. Everyone in the media thought Truman was going to lose so bad. It's famous that they put out a paper saying Cox wins before the results. So Truman's holding it up laughing as he's the president because the paper's wrong. And nearly 80 years to 100 years later, we're here again. We're here again, and it's similar. And guess how Dewey Cox got the nomination? DNC shenanigans. So just with the two people you really wanted to see be president, didn't happen because the committee wanted Dewey Cox. And just how we wanted Sanders to go against Trump, we didn't get that to happen because one lady in the DNC thought we're going to go with Hillary. And that has happened. What literally happened that whole time, that literally changed history, to Roe versus Wade, to everything we're talking now, literally happened in the history during Truman's era at the exact same fucking time. Even to the media, the way it was. It's insane.
Now Dewey Cox.
I want to say his name is Dewey Cox. That might be hold on.
Well, because here's the thing.
Sorry, Dewey Cox is the walk hard. Hold on.
Yeah. Because that's one of those IP Freely jokes. Dewey Cox. That's maybe that's why he didn't win. They're like, we got a true man or a wet dick over here. Is it Dewey Cox?
Let me get the newspaper.
Was it the Dewey Decimal guy who did the library?
It was Dewey. His name was Dewey, but it was Dewey Thurman, I think, or something. Truman. Yeah, well, here, I'll take a.
But no, I agree with your point on that, by the way. We're seeing a repeat of shenanigans in king making, just like back in Truman's day. I agree, yeah. It's just it's more pronounced with technology these days, so it's the stinkers are more stinky, I suppose. Dewey defeat, and there's Truman holding it up.
100%. Chicago Tribune, actually. Boy, Illinois knows how to always make the history books today. Oh, my goodness. But yeah, I want to say Cox. It's probably not. I'll research that.
That'd be funny if it was Dewey Cox, back from a more innocent time. Well, the guy who did the Dewey Decimal System that we use in our libraries, that guy was a huge pervert. Like, he was going around groping librarians, and these are leftist librarians. It got so bad, they like a bunch of them got together and took him to court in like the 40s or 50s or something. The Dewey Decimal System, but I don't remember if I can't remember
Well,
what his name.
Dr. Seuss wrote children's book because his pornographic illustrations didn't get off. No one wanted to watch them read, so he just decided to write kids' books. His first
I didn't
book
know
was
that.
it was really weird. You can look at Thomas Dewey.
Okay, Tom, I thought you were going to say, "Oh,
Seuss
the
is
yo ho."
But yeah, 100%. That's what happened in that one. But we were talking about foreign heels and all this. We got to talk about WWE is reportedly sold to Saudi Arabia, the same firm that bought Phil Mickelson, I believe, in that PGA tour, decided to buy this. Now, it's still a rumor, but it's very heavy speculate. If you listen to WWE, you know the truth. A few months ago, Vince McMahon left the company. He got Me Too'd. He decided to hire a legal assistant to have sex with.
Saudi Arabia, like, you are me too. I am me too. We are all me too. This is
Right.
Saudi Arabia. We
Well, he
call
didn't do anything per se wrong. He's just kind of a crummy person, but he may have used company assets to do these bad things. So
Ah,
he had to leave. But at the time, oh, Vinnie Mac is a smart dude. So he's maybe talking to Saudi Arabia at the time saying, hey, I got this business worth like $1 billion. You sell it, I'll sell it to you. You put me in charge of creative because I'm the guy who's awesome and we keep going as normal and making money. So he gets $1 billion, gets to privatize the company he loves, and still be in charge.
so he won.
He won. He literally won. So what he did at first though is leave, say goodbye, gave his company to his daughter to run, and in his absence, and his son-in-law. They all quit today and been removed or something like that. And reports are coming out the Saudi Arabia. So my question is Hulk Hogan a foreign bad guy now? Is that how we're going to have revisionist history? Like, is Hulk Hogan the biggest heel in wrestling now? Because like to the Saudis, I'm sure they don't want some guy American made, beating up the Sheik the whole fucking time. Like I don't. I just thought this was wild. Do you have any thoughts
Number one,
about?
I didn't know his name was spelled MAHON. So I
Yeah,
it took me a second. I was like, oh, McMahon has an H because McMahon is the perfect name for what he does. He's a McMahon, the McMahon. So that's number one. Number two, those Saudis have that oil fortune. Every one of them's got a cat or a tiger or a lion or a bear or something. I say, bring the big pets to the ring. Come on, let them wrestle a tiger. Come,
a Saudi King
for real.
match where you have John Cena and Roman Reigns in the ring and surrounded by Siberian tigers and their princes as they're sitting there. As people are fanning them, feeding them raw meat, like,
Your
oh,
choreography now, John Cena. See,
oh, you can't see me. The tiger can see you, John Cena. He sees you very well,
are
very
you
well
sure about
indeed.
that? Well, I guess he was.
So yeah, he decided he kind of saw the writing on the wall, and Vince McMahon pulled out another awesome business move. Does all the fans of WWE suffer? Yes, but this is business. Have you listened to us the last 2 hours? This is kind of running for the theme, but as him solely, dude's kind of rocking it. We're going to get into the rapid fire. I know we're getting a little low. This is going to be a running theme because we never get to this. But next week, check out to the kill switches in cars. We will talk
Cars,
about that.
coffee, kill switches in cars, killing comedians.
Oh, dude. We have to talk about finally. This is the short one. There's been a new world record. Someone threw a sausage roll in the air, and the second man caught it the furthest distance. It was 36 feet and 1 inch by some Australians. It was a 19-gram irregular shaped sausage roll. Basically, what they did was take a little smoky and wrapped it up in it, what they said, a sausage roll. I was pissed. So I thought it was like a big. What they're getting ready to do is what we do in the Midwest every time there's a football game and someone's cooking hot dogs, you get the guy out there, hey, go along, I'll throw this fucking hot dog in your face. And someone always catches it. So I'm not too impressed, but it is news. So we do have a video clip of this great act.
It's good.
There, right in the mouth. Boom. And after seeing it, I think it needs to be done in a parking lot outside of Cleveland Browns stadium in the middle of the snow. That's real athlete. That's a real Guinness World Record.
I love it. I think it's funny that Australians went all the way to Idaho to throw at one another and catch it in their mouths. I mean, couldn't they have thrown meat at each other in Australia, or is that illegal down south? I don't know.
Fastest. Australian for pointless.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Here's the other thing. Now, I think this is a great story. I think it's good. It's funny. It's uplifting gold. But I understand why countries like Somalia might hate us. We are starving every day. You are throwing meat and missing it. Look at him. It took him like 20 times. That is enough little baby sausages to feed my entire family. That's probably not how Somalia.
I would like to go over to them and describe what Tupperware is. Yeah, we have so much food we cook for our family, like so much that after, it's just I can't fit another. We put it in a container that used to hold butter that says Brady Crocker, and we put it in our fridge to never eat it again. And then we throw it away a week later.
What is these leftovers you talk about? We have leftovers. One of us is going to die. Yeah.
Oh man. A little shout out while we wrap it up. If you are going to the Penfield show in Penfield, Illinois, bad news, man. It's sold out. Sold out in less than 48 hours. That's good news. There is a waiting list, but we will be back later on in spring and summer, so check that out. Our next show is January 21st. It's Streeter, Illinois. It's up there nearby Springfield, Indiana side. It's a 122 club. Please check that out. And if you want to do a comedy show on April 1st, Chevy's Lounge in Herrin, Illinois has got you covered. We got a comedy spotlight with good old boy himself, Josh Reynolds, with some locals, David Kirk and Edward Bowen, and Live Laugh Lewis. 3L Cubed will be hosting the evenings. Please check that out and go to timlosscomedy.com for all my live shows coming to a town near you. Whew, almost like I practiced that shit. What you got going on, Kevin?
Well, we did solidify that gig at the Grand Gateway Hotel. I'll be doing 5 shows there, Friday and Saturday, the 27th and 28th of this month, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of February. I believe the show time's going to be at 6 or 7, could be 7 or 8. I'm not sure on that yet. Don't have the poster yet, but that's happening during stock days here in Rapid City. That's right near where I live. Also, next Thursday, I'll be on the radio discussing issues like this in Rapid City as well. And again, my other show on top of that doesn't come till September, but I'll have more information on that as events permit. So if you're in and about Illinois, if you're in and about Rapid City, South Dakota, around those times, drop on by. We'll give you a laugh, and I'm sure you'll be surprised at the difference between our personas and our comedy.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. Some guy, man, your new show. I'm ready for. They're gonna come thinking I'm Lewis Black or something. I'm just gonna shout at them. You're a bad person. Why don't you recycle? Just throw a can at him. No, dude, definitely. If you can't check us out, comedy. We're very different on stage and very funny. Definitely check this out on there. And we're back at the same time next week. There will be a minor program change at the beginning of February, but we'll let you know as that comes sooner and sooner. It's not going to be that big deal, just a little earlier start time. But for the most time, it'll be at this time. We appreciate you coming in and talking the news. Sorry about our takes, but that's part of my news. See you guys later.